Thanks. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Licensing and Gambling Subcommittee here at County Hall in Usk on Monday, 22nd of September. Croeso i'r cyfarfod, mae'n un yn Bryn Biga yn Cyngor y Sir ar gyfer y Cyngor. My name's Tudor Thomas and I'm chair of the Licensing and Gambling Subcommittee, and I will be chairing the meeting today, and everything in effect will, as it were, go through the chair, because obviously it is a formal meeting. I'll go to the agenda, and then when we get to the substantive item, I'll run through the introductions so that you know who everybody is. So we go first to item 1. Any apologies for absence?
None received, Chair.
And item 2, declarations of interest. None? Okay, thanks. So we'll go now then to introductions. I'm Chair Tudor Thomas. I'm County Councillor for Park in Abergavenny. Go to my left first.
I'm County Councillor Jackie Strong and I represent County Cock Crossward in County Cock. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Julian Sanders, a solicitor at Monmouthshire Council. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Richard Williams from Democratic Services.
Good morning, I'm Lynn Jo Gorman, the Principal Licensing Officer.
Good morning, I'm Samantha Wynne, the Licensing Officer.
Thanks, and can we go to the applicants, please?
I'm Hugh Evans, I'm the applicant.
And I'm Edward Evans, I'm the other half of the applicant.
Okay, thanks for that.
Morning, Chair.
Oh yeah, sorry, Martin online, sorry.
I'm online. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Martin Newell, County Councillor for the Monmouth Town Ward.
Okay. One thing I would say before we start, obviously we're here in the chamber, etc. It's quite an official sort of setting, bureaucratic setting. Please don't be overfaced by that. I'm sure looking at you, you won't be, but the proceedings are live streamed, and obviously you can look back after the meeting, but the public is obviously welcome to look at the meeting today, and that obviously is a very transparent process. We'll go through a set procedure today, and once we've gone through the formal meeting, and if there are objectors today, they can obviously come and make their objections. There are some written objections. But at the end, then we will move from the committee, myself, Councillor Strong, Councillor Newell, and Julian Saunders, the county solicitor. We will then move to another room and go through our deliberations, reach a decision. We'll come back. I will give you the decision, and normally Julian Saunders here will give the resume of the rationale, the reasons as to how we've reached that decision, so that you are clear then why we've reached that decision. Obviously, the two applicants are here, and I'll give you an opportunity slightly later on in the meeting to put your point of view, to give your present and your representation as to why you want this variation in licence. And normally we allow 10 minutes for you to do that, and I will reasonably stick to that unless you've got a pressing point over the 10 minutes that you wish to make. I might sort of be lenient on that, but normally I would give you 10 minutes, which is quite a period of time for you to give your representation. I'm going to go to the next part of the proceedings now, where I'm going to hand over to the licensing officer, and she will present her statement of facts and will summarise things such as the facts of the application before the panel, any objections made by responsible authorities, any representations made by other persons, those sections of the government guidance and licensing policy document applicable to the case, and then the statement of facts report. It will not contain a recommendation. It's obviously come to us as a committee because there have been objections If there hadn't been objections, then it would be to the licensing officers to make a decision. But no recommendation will actually be made. So I'll hand over now to licensing. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few points before I hand you over to Samantha Wynne, who's produced this report today. Are you happy both to continue with this committee without any legal representation? And have you had sight as well of the report and the committee procedure prior to today? As the Chair mentioned, there are objectors to this application. They haven't attended today, but we will check anyway, but they haven't attended today, so it'll be more of a written submission if they don't attend today. If you're happy to have that, okay. So I'll pass you over then to Samantha Wynne, who's produced the report.
Thank you, Linda. So an application to vary the current premises licence at Llanvethrin Court was received from Mr Hugh Evans and Mr Edward Evans. The variation application is attached as Appendix A, along with the plans of the premises, and a copy of the current licence is attached as Appendix B. At 3.1 of the report, you will see the current licensing hours and the proposed hours. You will see that the applicant has also stated that live music will not occur outdoors later than 11 p.m. and that volume levels will be determined by audibility checks at neighbouring properties. Appendix C are the maps of where the premises is located. The applicant has also provided additional conditions to be added onto their premises licence at 3.3 of the report. There's quite a lot of information in that, so I'm not actually going to read it all through, but everyone can see. They have also provided an overview of the premises on what they have achieved so far and what they would like to achieve in the future, and I'll highlight the main points. Llanvethrin began trading in 2017 as a hospitality business and farming the land. They started out trying a wide range of events: wellness retreats, music events, weddings and food events. The premises used temporary event notices, also called TENs, to cover their events between 2018 and 2022. In 2022, a premises licence was granted, and yet the premises still required an extra 5 TENs for that year. Each year since they have held a premises licence, they have still required TENs to cover events that are outside the premises licence area and or times. In 2022, insulation was added to the main barn and they purchased their own sound system. Since 2022, there have only been 2 formal complaints to the council. The noise management plan is regularly overviewed and changes made. They are moving their design, the business of their design, to have fewer later finishes. The licence is already subject to mandatory conditions contained in their licence in Appendix A, page 4. The mandatory conditions will still apply to the variation should it be granted. If this licence is not granted, the current licence will still be retained. At 3.5 of the report, you will see that the applicant has a statutory duty to send copies of the application to the responsible authorities. They must also place a notice in the local newspaper. Unfortunately, the notice wasn't placed in the paper in time, and therefore the 28-day consultation period had to begin again, bringing the closing date for representations from the 28th of July to the 25th of August. The authority has also advertises the application on their website, giving details advice on how to make a representation against the application. Representations were made by Gwent Police under the licensing objectives, namely prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, public safety and prevention of children from harm. The representations are attached as Appendix D.
Can I interrupt? Sorry, Samantha, in mid-flow. Can you just check Appendix D to the report for me? It's just something I've just noticed as well. Can you just check? Sorry, Chair, just wanted to check because I noticed there's a signature from an old police officer at the bottom of Appendix D. I've just picked up, but it is just to clarify, it is the representation from the police for this application that's current today. Right. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that with the officer.
Thank you. Thanks.
Can I just check something on that? I spoke with PT Luke Dakin before putting in the application, and we had agreed everything that he wanted to see in it. And so was that one from the police from previous licensing police person, was that from the previous application rather than this one?
That's what I was just checking then, but it is actually for this application, and it's put in the report today just to clarify that you've agreed to the extra conditions on the licence, okay? Just so everybody's aware that you're going one step over than the original application. Okay.
Okay, so the representations are attached as Appendix D. The applicant has received the representation, has agreed to all the extra conditions the police have stated. No other responsible authority submitted a representation. Representations were received from other persons and are attached as Appendix E. These refer to noise disturbances and the businesses suffering economically. County Councillor David Jones also submitted a representation on behalf of some local residents, and this is also attached. Representations made under the Licensing Act 2003 must be made under the 4 key licensing objectives: prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, protection of children from harm. Section 9.9 of the guidance issued by the Home Office states that borderline cases should also be given the benefit of the doubt and submitted. When considering their decision, members are asked to consider the licensing objectives revised guidance issued under Section 182 of the Act. 3.15 of the report states that a hearing is not required if no representations have been made or representations have been withdrawn. As this has not happened, this hearing is required. 4.1 to 4.4 of the report states the sections of the guidance with which we run a hearing. And 4.5 of the report sets out the authority's guidance in relation to prevention of public nuisance. That's the end.
Right, thanks for that. I'm not aware of representation other than from any responsible authority. There's no one objecting from responsible authority. Environmental Health have not objected. The police are not here this morning because they are satisfied with that the applicant has agreed to the conditions that they imposed. There is no one else, to listen to. I would draw your attention, as the licensing officer has, the 2 objections from people living in the area. And they've obviously are not happy with the application for the extended hours. And there is a letter from County Councillor David Hughes-Jones, who says quite clearly he's not the ward member. And in that sense, I assume he's not representing, ward member views. People have obviously consulted him about it. And he's raised objections in the case of the extension of hours and the effect on B&B in the areas, or Airbnbs, and obviously the noise issue. But to my mind, he is really complaining in terms of a personal capacity, because I think the ward member is County Councillor Ian Chandler, who has not made any representation to us as a committee. We'll move now then to the invite to the applicant. Sorry. All right. Any questions for the licensing officers before we hand over to the applicants?
No, Chair. We will clarify timings on the current licence. Just a point to make that you can only decide today on the actual variation itself, and you can't take away anything on the main premises that currently stands, just so that people are aware if they're tuning in online. Okay.
Thanks. Any questions now or issues from the 2 county councillors present, Councillor Jackie Strong and Councillor Newell? Councillor Strong?
No, Chair, I think it's quite clear, and I think Linda's made it quite clear that we're not actually looking at past decisions. We're looking at the variation as presented to us today. Thank you.
Councillor Newell? Any issues?
Thank you, Chair. No real issues. I've just reading County Councillor Jones's letter, and he states, reading between the lines, he's not really objecting. He's just making sure that necessary safeguards are in place, and I don't have any real concerns that they haven't been, based on what I've seen and what I'm hearing so far. So no questions from me. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thanks, Councillor Newell. Okay, I'll now hand over to the applicant, and as I said, you've got 10 minutes now to put your point of view as to why you want the extension of hours, etc. So you've got 10 minutes, and if you obviously use the microphone, because then County Councillor Newell online will hear it, so you need to press the button before you speak. Thanks.
I'll make one point to start with, and then Hugh, who runs the operations, like another one. We've got an objection here, but it's really only one objection, because you may know that the one pair are the parents of Mrs. Yeoman, and they all live in the same place. And I'm not sure that's apparent from the actual appendix. So we're simply dealing with one location, and they haven't really said anything much to us before, and I think we're going to have to talk to them direct and find out what we can do to help them. But it isn't, we've got somebody over here and somebody over there, and it's all rather awkward. They're just here. And one of the buildings they're in wasn't even there when we started, it's relatively new, so it's not, maybe we haven't given it as much thought as we might have done, but we will. So Hugh's going to talk about why he wants to vary the licence, and it's all very practical.
Why to vary the license is we currently use those times already. We just license it with temporary events notices when we're using Sunday. Well, I guess there's the other side of the variation isn't just about the times, it's about the spaces, and including those spaces in, and that will make things a lot more practical for how we actually manage things, because it seems like the Live Music Act covers some of when we're using some spaces, and the premise license covers another space, and then the TENS covers another space and time. And it's about simplifying that kind of thing. In terms of the complaints from Gary, Jess, Peter and Verity, as my dad said, in previous years they hadn't really brought it up much. We have had complaints from just about every direction over the years, and I've worked really hard. Like, that's the thing that keeps me up at night, is when I keep other people up at night. We've worked really hard, we've made loads of progress. The feedback I get from every other direction is, you're doing a really good job. Things are no longer an issue. And then it's since putting in this variation application that the Yeomans have started expressing dissatisfaction with how things are managed. And I have changed a lot, and I have been thinking about how to change that, and got all sorts of ideas. It's a little bit of a cash flow kind of, you could put every single thing you possibly do in, but it's more like, okay, what's the most appropriate, and then the order in which we're going to do this. But yeah, sorting the sound out for the entire business has always been the thing that I've worked hardest on. I mean, that's. I think from every other side of it, it's going extremely well. It's the sound management is the limiting factor.
Thanks. So that is obviously those are the key facts in terms of why you're applying for this extension on the whole premises to streamline issues, etc. And obviously you said that you've taken action to mitigate sound nuisance.
Yeah, the extending times, it isn't we want to fill all of that time all of the time. For example, we have Thursday night till 2 a.m. at the moment. We've had maybe 4 or 5 events this year that made use of the Thursday night. It's about just having it covered so that when things happen, it's covered, rather than having to be like thinking about all this, getting different licensing in place for different things.
Right, okay, thanks. Responsible authorities obviously are not here. Does licensing want to ask anything, or are you happy with the presentation, with what's been presented?
Yes, Chair. They mentioned of tens. There has been no objection to tens, and as such, none has actually come to committee. And that's the only way you can put a condition, extracting conditions from the current licence onto a temporary event notice, and that has never happened because there is no objections. With the variation application, obviously there'll be extra conditions because the police have put in extra conditions, unlike if they carried on with the 10. So obviously it's tightening up the licence. Just want to make that point really.
Okay. Thanks. Any questions now from the two county councillors here making up the panel? Go to Councillor Strong.
I mean, I've sort of taken sort of note that you've only had sort of 2 objections in all that time, so that actually speaks volumes, doesn't it? That there hasn't been that sort of objection to either via environmental health or whatever. But one of the other issues was sort of egress from the property onto the roads. Is that an issue, and is that something that we ought to sort of think about really?
The junction on the main road isn't the best. We've cut the hedge in a way where you can actually see much more, and definitely if you're coming up the road you can see the top of it. It's the top of a vehicle that'd be waiting. Something we've talked about is talking to actually Dave Jones about putting one of those funky shaped mirrors, I don't know the technical term, on, what am I trying to say?
It's a mirror.
Yeah, a mirror on the house opposite the turning.
Or preferably 2 mirrors.
Yeah. That's one of the potential options on that.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just add, if you don't mind, Chair, one thing?
Yes.
One
Continue.
thing about this junction, the road is owned, the road is adopted, so it's not ours, but the hedge there is ours, and then the post that's there belongs to BT or OpenReach or whatever they're called these days. So it's a bit of a muddle. If the post wasn't there, it would be a lot better actually, but it's there. And you just have to work around it. And as Hugh says, one of the possibilities is to put some mirrors in there. We've been thinking about it for some years and not done it yet.
I did speak to BT about moving that post, and they said it was going to cost an awful lot to ask the question.
Thanks. Councillor Newell, do you want to ask any questions or make any observations?
No, thank you, Chair. No, I've seen everything I think I need to see in here, and thank you. That's been very thorough. Thanks.
One point I would make in terms of the objection, in terms of the junction, and I know that area fairly well, and it is a difficult junction, but that is not a licensing issue for us here today. That is more of a planning, and highways would be consulted if you were putting in an application for new premises at the moment, and that would be a planning issue, not a licensing issue. Then it would go to planning and they would consult with highways. And really we can't consider highways issues in this meeting today because this is a licensing committee and not a planning committee meeting. So that has no great material effect, and it's obviously up to people using the highway, using that junction, coming onto the main part of the road, for them to obviously observe and take care, either going into that junction or coming out of it. But it's not. It doesn't have any material effect on the licensing issue this morning. I'll just go back to the applicant or applicants now. If you want to make any sort of summing up in terms of your case before we then break and go into private session.
Don't think we've got anything further to add, thanks.
licensing, do you want to make any further comment before we break?
Yeah, just I was just clarifying that the application is going from indoors for the live and recorded music to outdoors. However, under the Live Music Act, it meant that they were able to do outdoors anyway without the need for a licence until 11 o'clock. So they're sticking by the live music until 11 o'clock, even though the times are longer. But they are sticking to 11 o'clock because that's on their application for live music. However, it's recorded music hasn't been mentioned outdoors, but I believe in correspondence they said it was going to be more of a incidental recorded music, because I need to for the members to clarify the difference really that you're going to have outdoors.
Yeah, you come back in.
Yeah, the outdoor bit, recorded outside.
Yeah, on your application you've got live music and recorded music being outdoors, whereas on your previous licence you had it indoors.
Yeah.
However, with the Live Music Act you was able to do outdoors until 11 o'clock anyway. On your new variation application, you've stated that you're going to have it outdoors as a norm, but you are going to cease 11 o'clock for live music, as it was with the Live Music Act. However, you haven't mentioned the recorded music, how that is going to be outdoors.
As in, I haven't mentioned the end time of the recorded.
Recorded music, you've just stated on the application live music will cease at 11 o'clock, but you haven't mentioned recorded music.
Yeah. The way we've actually managed this is, while the Live Music Act says you can finish at 11, out of respect for neighbours, we stop at 8:30 at the latest anyway. But again, of like changing the licence to then have the 11 p.m. and the 8:30 gets complicated. So it's like a practicality of how it's actually managed, rather than what the relevant legislation covering it is. And then the bit that I had a conversation with Anthony, environmental health, about was incidental music after that, because if we've got these stretch tents set up during the day, having just like a very low level incidental music helps take an outdoor space that people that aren't inside the barns can spend time in, but it being incidental rather than like anything that's going to cause any issues for neighbours.
Yeah, Jackie, yeah. Go on.
And that would sort of cease before 11?
No, not necessarily. It being just like a quiet, calm, sit-down space sort of thing.
To clarify, that could go beyond 11 o'clock, the incidental music.
Yes, yeah.
Can I just ask, you say about the incidental, sort of, for want of a better word, sort of mood music to make people relax, etc. But can you clarify at what sort of level that's going to be? Because obviously your premises are in a rural location, although you're not surrounded by housing. We've got certain residences in that area, but sound in open countryside does travel much more quickly than in an urban environment. But at what level would you set that music in terms of sort of decibel, the incidental music that you intend to play?
So what we found in managing that is putting a number doesn't actually really work, because sound meters are actually very simple things. And if there's a load of people talking in there, that's actually louder than the music. Or if it's windy, the sound of the leaves rustling in the tree is also louder than the music. We sometimes go for the term mini-rig volume. Mini-rig volume. If you had a small portable speaker that size, that's how loud it could be, but it's just out of bigger speakers. Do you have any idea what I mean by when I say that? Or the style of music is about atmospheric kind of swirly noise. I don't know if you're into the same kind of atmospheric kind of music.
There's a generation gap here, I'm afraid, and I'm well the other side of it.
That doesn't really answer your question. It's not... In terms of when we're doing a sound check, you would probably hear residual noise from the barn over the sound of a tent with incidental music sort of levels in. And I'm aware that that lack of clarity makes it harder to pinpoint a decision around that kind of thing.
Okay, and a final question. Is the vast majority of music played, as it were, within the premises, within the barn, or is it outside?
At night, from 8:30 is almost entirely in the barns. During the day, depends on the event, kind of thing. But anything that's going to be louder, very much in the barns. Those hold sound.
So that obviously there is a physical barrier when it's played within the barns, there are walls, roof, etc., that does, as it were, hold the music within that space. And I think just want to be clear about the possible sort of nuisance value to neighbours, because we have to balance those areas.
It is worth saying that we've spent quite a lot soundproofing these barns. Because they were in a terrible state when we took them over, we could therefore spend money on them without undoing what somebody else had done. If it's a bit like you buy a house with a fantastic kitchen but you hate it. Well, it's here, there was nothing. So we've put quite a lot of soundproofing in. So these are much better soundproofed than your average barn on your average farm. Much better.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Councillor Martin Newell, do you want to come in, please?
Thank you, Chair. I was just the young gentleman, the young applicant. I haven't got your name. Sorry. To me, it just the outside music sounds like you're trying to create sort of an ambience, if you like, and then it may be background music like you get in a restaurant or even in a lift. It's sort of mood enhancing. That's what I'm understanding from what you're saying for the outside music. And does that really sum up what you're trying to do with this? Thanks.
In terms of the late night, anything post 8:30, yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. When you mentioned the kind of nuisance from outside during the day, that's where there's these different ideas we explore. So we've done the whole build like a straw bale kind of castle, and that's quite effective. We've done where you have a sound system facing one way, and then you actually also have a sound system facing the other way at the same time, playing the same sound but out of phase, and that cancels behind. Like a berm structure is like one of. As I said, there's like all these different ideas I've got, and it's a cash flow of like how timeline of implementing these ideas. There's during the day it is louder than the incidental background music, and there's lots of different tactics that we've tried. Part of having the variation on the premise license to include the second barn, that jumps us in capacity by a level which, for the smaller events, it's actually harder to manage outdoor music because it costs a certain amount to have a team supervising. And if there's 50 to 100 people down with a speaker, it's harder to fund someone to be supervising all that time. If you're up like 200 people, that funds having a team actively managing it, having more control over the sound system, and having that bigger team involved helps control the moments when someone just turns it up. And so the change allowing slightly bigger stuff will professionalise management of that.
Thanks. Any other questions or issues now before we actually retire to deliberate the case? And as I said earlier, myself and my two fellow councillors and Mr Julian Saunders and Richard Williams, Democratic Services, will go into another room to deliberate, and then we'll come back and I will give you the decision, and then Mr Saunders will give the rationale that we've used to make that decision, so that it's clear how we've reached that decision, both clear for you and clear, obviously, for the people who live in fairly close proximity to you, so that everything is absolutely transparent. So we'll stop. Don't see any questions or issues. We'll stop the official meeting now, and we'll go into private session and then return and give the decision. No, no, that's fine. No,
Yeah,
thanks.
just a reminder, actually, that it is live stream still whilst they go out and deliberate.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
just be mindful.
Yeah, okay, so we adjourn now. Thanks very much. Thanks. Well, welcome back to the meeting. We've gone back live stream now, and obviously we've come back into the main body of the meeting. And I'm pleased to tell you that we are happy to grant the licence, the new licence that you put forward today. We have listened carefully to what you said, and obviously as well we have looked at the objections from the people living in close proximity to you. But I'll hand over now to Mr. Julian Saunders now from the legal department to set out the rationale for us actually accepting your application. Thanks.
Thank you. So it was a unanimous decision by the three members to approve the application, and the reasons that they gave for their approval are as follows. They reminded themselves that the applicants have accepted the full extent of the police conditions that were requested by the police, so they were agreed by the applicants. The applicants have recognised the issues raised by the objectors, and the committee was satisfied with the steps taken by the applicants to reduce noise levels, for example the soundproofing that was described by the applicants. The committee took into consideration the licensing objectives, and the committee had no significant concerns in respect of all four licensing objectives. The committee did have some recommendations to put forward to the applicants, and those recommendations are that the hedge is maintained to provide and continue to provide good visibility to the drivers entering that junction, and for any pedestrians entering or exiting the premises. And furthermore, the committee asked that they could be included on the applicant's website some detail or explanation, an advice note in respect of entering the property from that road, and an advice note attached to the exit of the property for when people are leaving the premises, to take care when exiting the property onto the road. So public safety was taken into consideration by the committee in respect of the highway and the junction. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for that. I'm glad that Julian has clarified our rationale and the issues about the highway, because obviously we did take into account the highway in terms of public safety, but we're obviously not a planning or a highways meeting, but public safety egressing from the property particularly was an issue that we did consider. Thanks for your time this morning. Thanks for your presentation. Thanks for everybody's inputs, and I declare the meeting now closed. Diolch yn fawr. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.